If I start telling people about hell, I might just scare them off. Where are you going to scare them off to? Hell number 2? Or are you just going to sit there and let them burn?
All right. This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn on the Truth Be Told Radio Network. And this segment is called Reign of the Tech. We're dealing with Elon, Jeffrey, and the Technocratic New Order. Technocratic New Order, actually. So don't forget to check us out on don'tletthemburn.com. Don't forget to go to truthbetoldnetwork.org and check out the rest of the programs there. Today, we just want to remind you to subscribe, like, and share, and so that the word can get out. The algorithms are against us, or against me, mostly, right? So don't forget, you could also check out our merch store, where you can get cool t-shirts and whatever, however you could support the channel. Please support the channel. And in the link tree description, you have multiple ways to support the channel. So if you choose so, and by the way, memberships are opening up, and so you're going to want to check that out within the week. And so let's get started, because we have a lot of ground to cover, and I have a special guest today. And here we go. Kevin, how you doing? Let me unmute you there.
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's a great day. Nice and cloudy, little overcast with a little sun coming out, Not too bad.
Cold here in New England. So I think overnight it was in the single digits.
Okay. Well, yeah, we passed our cold zone, so I know you guys are feeling it. Today is just nice. It's nice in the 60s and nice wind blowing. But anyway, we got a lot of ground to cover, and we're dealing with the Technocratic New Order. And for people that have known about the New World Order, that seems to be fading like a bad memory, right? And now we have the Technocratic New Order coming in. And the way I see it is God is using Trump to set some of this stuff up. Because on the onset, it looks like, oh, well, it's the same old program. This is the global elites. They're fooling us. Trump was a plant, this, that, and the other. And that could make sense to the normal mind that is missing a ton of data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but when you start to look at other ingredients of what's going on, all of the technocrats, the Peter Thiel and the Zuckerbergs and all those names we can call off, there are a couple maps out there. One is from the Club of Rome, and there's another one called the TechNet map, right? And it shows kind of the same plan, but more widespread. And we'll bring that map up in a second. But give me your take on some of this before we get into it.
Well, the New World Order, technocracy, which is the direction that we seem to be heading in. What I found kind of interesting is I heard about technocracy several years ago, looked up some of the players, looked up what their goals were, and then also looked at some things where you wanted to get a North American Union. And it seems like it's like the globalists were going in this direction, and then they slammed on the brakes, turned the car around, and they're going in a different direction to get to the same place, which is this technocracy. And this is where you have people like Elon, you have people like Trump, who I think is probably a globalist like the rest of them, but it's one of these things where, as I like to say, there's even some things a polecat won't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's things with certain people being individuals that, they've signed into the agenda, but not all of it.
Right. And
you've seen that throughout history. Like you look at Schindler's List, for example. The guy was saving Jews left and right. He was a Nazi, but he didn't get into this whole thing like, the ultimate solution. That wasn't part of his idea. So he was trying to save as many people as he could.
Right. And I'm glad that you said Trump is probably a globalist, because what I see, if you recall, when he went to the World Economic Forum in Davos, and in fact, they want Davos to be the new location for the New World Order instead of Washington D.C. or even the rest of the world that they have these little meetings at, right? So Davos seems to be it doesn't seems to be, it's where they want it to happen, right? And so when he went there, he pretty much embarrassed all of them because their order is being just dismantled. And we can go into Venezuela, what happened there, and how it affected Cuba, how it affected China, how it affected Iran. And a lot of these economic systems are breaking down as we speak. There's a bunch of turmoil in China, not just because of the oil issue, but there's a coup happening over there, and there's people getting murdered, and the economic system is failing again. And Cuba economic system is failing almost immediately from what happened in Venezuela, and Iran, the same thing. So that's what they set up. They allowed China to gain all of this power over the last 40, 50 years or more, right? And then Cuba, that was a stronghold for Russia and other things. If you want to fill any holes in there, go ahead.
Well, what you're seeing, if I go back to like North American Union type of stuff, they wanted to create one economic block that would be where you're seeing in red on this map, basically all of Central America, Mexico, the United States, Canada, Greenland, and so what we see now happening is Greenland's in play. You have Venezuela's definitely in play. They're talking about Cuba at the moment. And if you go all the way down towards South America, you have Panama, where the Panama Canal is. And we were talking earlier, Chris. The one thing that really never made any sense to me when I learned about the Panama Canal, there was such an expense, such a loss of life that, and the Panama Canal being what it is and being so important to world trade. Because looking at the map, if you were on the West Coast and you needed to get to the East Coast, or if you're on the East Coast and you needed to get to the West Coast, you had to go all the way around South America and then come around here. They can go all the way down here to the north of South America, cut through that canal, and that saves thousands and thousands of miles. So why Panama was not just made at least a territory, if not a U.S. state, always kind of eluded me. I mean, in Panama, like Peru, I think it's Ecuador, they use the American dollar as their currency. So it's like they're more than halfway there. So, and so you're seeing kind of a different way of achieving that goal. You've seen the tariffs and everything else come in, and that is where you have talk now about at least two different provinces in Canada saying, possibly sayonara to the greater part of Canada and perhaps merging with the U.S., which would be probably the best thing they could do rather than trying to set themselves up as independent states. There would be advantages to joining the U.S. that they wouldn't have if they tried to go completely independent.
Right. And we have to bring up the border issue. The border between Canada and America is wide open. The largest in the world is wide open. And there are illegals coming through there as well. Right. And we haven't seen a stop to that. And a lot of them are going to, guess where? New York. Right. And if we merge, as you see on this map, this is called a Technate map of America. This was drawn up by technocrats. Okay. This includes Elon's father, or his grandfather. And also, well, the father's included too. And other technocrats. So this is worse than the map we saw with NAFTA. Okay. So again, Greenland, Venezuela, and all these countries that you can see, including the Galapagos Island, all of the Caribbean, all of that will become the North American Union, or what they call the Technate America. Okay. And if you guys don't understand, this is going to be ruled by not presidents and kings, and it's going to be engineers, people that are all into technology, and there's another group, okay, scientists. All right, so to understand technocracy, you want to go do a deep dive in some technocracy books, because it sounds like it's only has to do with tech. No, they want the whole government to run more efficiently. But how are they going to do that? AI, universal basic income, mega regions, and we'll bring up some of these as we go on. So it's not, and if Canada it gets submerged into America, their political system just collapses. And for the most part, a lot of them are lefties. Okay, but it will collapse. What else you want to say about that?
Well, what's interesting is that for years, and I didn't know this. This was like an eye opener for me. But without the tariffs, we're basically funding most of the known world and keeping them afloat. Yeah. Our taxes were going overseas. Now, a lot of the leftist politicians were taking their cut off of everything that was going overseas. You can look at all the, all the non-governmental organizations. The money's all being funneled through there, and each one of these politicians is taking their cut, and they're making a lot of money, and it winds up in offshore accounts. So now what's happening is those are being stopped. We're going back to the system that we were on before they brought in the income tax.
Yeah.
And that is the tariffs. And I just saw an article come up on my phone, and it's idiotic. They're like, the tariffs have cost every American family $1,000 a year. But what they don't tell you is that with a tariff, you have the choice of whether or not you want to buy foreign. And I've heard for years, and I'm sure you have too, Chris, and I'm sure your viewers can remember the same thing. They were talking about buying American for years and support America, support the American worker. Now the left is on the side of supporting the foreign countries, supporting foreign corporations, foreign industries, because now you don't want to have a tariff, because a tariff makes the playing field level.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I mean by that? Say, you want to go, I know you live in an area that's warm all the time, but here where I am, it's 2 feet of snow on the ground. I want to go out and buy a new shovel. Well, I can buy the shovel for $10 that's made in America, or I can buy the shovel made for $12 that is made overseas. But they make the shovel for $5 using slave labor. And the tariff makes that equal. And so you still have the choice of buying the foreign-made shovel, but you can also support American industry of buying American, and you avoid that tariff altogether. Now, the same companies, as we're seeing, have the choice of moving their manufacturing base to the United States and avoiding that tariff altogether, which does what, Chris? That provides American jobs and creates a better situation here in the United States. Because we heard for years about the giant sucking sound of jobs going right overseas.
Right.
And nothing. We saw the steel industry dry up. We saw many industries just blow away in the wind because everything was being outsourced. We heard about it all through the 80s when it started. We heard about it all through the 90s, and it became normalized where it was like a normal thing to have all of your industry, outsourced to a foreign country. A long time ago, at least 25 years ago, there was a company I worked with, and what they would do is we had data that came in from other companies that we did business with, and that would be decoded. They would load that up, make a copy, send that data over to another country, and they would do the data conversion and send it back to us. And it was all being outsourced. So there were less people working for that company, which cut down on their overall costs. I get it, but that means less people are working.
Right. And that's another reason why we're bringing all these semiconductor creations here instead of just in Taiwan, which is smart.
Yeah.
Another topic when it comes back to the immigration issue is that if this map becomes a reality, and it's slowly becoming a reality, all of the work we did to send people back to where they belong will mean nothing.
Yeah.
Because they'll just be free to roam anywhere across this landscape here. Isn't that interesting?
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe I couldn't see that kind of lack of control over movement actually taking place. So there may be another fly in the ointment that gets created when this comes about, because if they have 15-minute cities and etc., they're limiting the amount of movement that people can do.
I understood. And also on that, you know, we have the mega regions, which we'll talk about in a second. But if all of this is now pronounced North America, they would definitely have to have some checks and balances, because
Yeah,
I could see it become a crazy situation. But we have to remember now, as far as the old globalist world order, they wanted a borderless world,
right.
and they want to dilute the picture of America from what it is and always has been: a free country, free speech, and all these things that come along with it. But if people come here and don't care about that anymore, then it becomes a hybrid of a sort that it will be a monster, and
True,
nothing will be
true.
recognized anymore as far as we know it now.
Well, the way I was taught years ago, maybe I'm wrong,
Hmm.
but after World War II happened, the United States was the superpower of the world at that point. And the best country, Chris, that you could ever lose a war to was the United States. I mean, Andrew Dice Clay, I remember him, he had this joke where he's like, you know, didn't we drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan years ago? And what did they do? Put Sony radios in the bombs? Because the uh, the thing is, if you look at pictures of Hiroshima or Nagasaki in 1945, it was a wasteland caused by 2 atomic bombs. If you go and pull up cities, those pictures of those cities now, it's nothing like that. The best the best country you could ever get into a war with over the 20th century was the United States, because they'd go in and rebuild your country.
Right.
And Japan was completely rebuilt.
Hmm.
The auto companies came in, worked the with the auto manufacturers that were in Japan, like Toyota, Honda, etc. Built them all up, built up their industries, and we know what Japan is today, and just a powerhouse. So, bearing on that, we built every economy on the planet,
Hmm.
practically every economy. And there was something that changed, though. We built all those economies, all that money went in, built all these countries up, and that was part of the Marshall Plan. But then we got to a point where they found black gold in places like Saudi Arabia, and they cut deals, and they said, to paraphrase, to make a long story a lot shorter, they had all that oil sitting under the ground. They had no way of pumping it out. Henry Kissinger, one of the reasons that Kissinger went all over the place during Nixon's time, one of these places was the Middle East. He cut deals with them. Look, you got the oil. You have no way of drilling it out. What we're going to do is we're going to set up all your drilling for you. We're going to pay for that. We're going to pay for all your refineries.
Hmm.
Okay? And all they had to do was keep buying T-bills and buy up all these dollars and take it out of our markets, and then denominate all the world's oil in dollars, so that any country that wanted to buy oil from the Saudis or part of OPEC would have to buy that oil in dollars.
Right.
That was the key. And then we went from having the dollar really being backed by gold to being backed by black gold. And that is what really helped stabilize and keep everything the way it was when they made that switch.
Hmm.
So then you fast forward to 2003, you have the first Gulf War. Now, what actually caused, and I don't remember if it was the first Gulf War or the second, but what caused the invasion was the second Gulf War. What caused the invasion in the second time around was Saddam Hussein did the one thing that he should never have done. He started to denominate oil on something other than the dollar. 2 weeks later, he was invaded. The first thing
Okay.
they did was secure the oil fields and put his oil purses back on the dollar, not the euro.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how the world works.
Yeah.
And this is all being changed again. We're going through another transformation where
Right.
we see this happening. And it takes somebody who's really a non-politician like a Donald Trump who understands business, approaches things completely differently than your, should I say it, classically trained politician, and he looks at the world differently, right, wrong, and different. Whether you hate the guy, love the guy, whatever. That's how these things are playing out.
Right. And his grandfather, we can't get into it now, was also um, very well aligned with some people, right?
Yes, yes.
And that could be a whole totally different show. I still have to do a lot more research on that. But let's get into the meat of this. So, okay, so we touched on the Technate of America map. This map was drawn, let's show it again, was drawn up in 1940.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For those that don't know, it's a long time ago. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
This is around the time now, around 1920, 1930, around there. Technocracy was not something that you wanted to be talking about because it was banned from the colleges and stuff like that. Okay. And then it came back around this time. Okay. To Canada and other countries. All right. So what we have today is a lot of technocrats coming through. Let me try to get this. Give me a second here.
Yeah, and to bear in mind something with technocracy is you have to remember a guy by the name of Zbigniew Brzezinski. He was a guy who brought about really two presidents into power. One was Jimmy Carter in the 1970s, and another one was the name what was it? Oh, let's see, Barack Hussein Obama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was handpicked. He was groomed by Brzezinski to be put into the White House.
Right. And most people don't know the history. So, what notice when Barack Obama came around, it was all about black and white and all this stuff and stuff that didn't matter because
Yeah.
I said it over and over again. Racism isn't a real thing, but hating another ethnicity is, and social classism is actually a thing, right?
Yeah.
But they want people focused on skin color so that you won't see the other things that are going on. And of course, it's a whole communist Marxist thing going on as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because let me add this really quick, and that is, I lived overseas for about a year, and I was in the UK. And what I noticed, and I learned very quickly, and so when I traveled in the United Kingdom, I would, as much as I didn't want to do it, I would wear a suit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because here in the States and all, yeah, it's much more race centric.
Yes.
But in Europe, it's class centric.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed if I was wearing a suit and I was in the airport and I was going up to maybe get a cup of coffee or something, they would call on me first before the guy that was dressed like the typical traveler, because you see, I must be important. And so I noticed whenever traveling through Europe, I would always wear a suit. Possibly, I don't like wearing ties, but I'd wear sometimes a suit and tie, and I'd get much better treatment. That's not so true here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so true here, but it is there.
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, there's only one race on the planet as far as humans. Human race. That's it. We're all brown, different shades. And I'll leave it at that. And do some research on evolution. That's where the stuff came from. I've said it over and over again. But anyway, so we have this map and 1940. So now we're in 2026. And over the last, I would say, from around the year 2000, a little bit in the late 90s, we started to see all of this technology start to come upon us through the internet and whatever.
Yeah.
And now we've seen it inflate into a ginormous thing where your phones and everything, they track you. And what you're going to see is the explosion of AI, which is already happening. We were talking about it for so long. And where a lot of people are ignoring the Elon Musk issue, right? And this is one news clip that we'll show here because there's lots of stuff going on in space now. Yet, is Elon bringing internet to the planet? Sure. Other
Hmm.
companies, other telecommunication companies are also doing it as well, but you haven't heard of it. Okay. And it's gonna be. You remember when Iron Man was like, "You have a the giant shield over the planet," It's
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, but not a shield, right? And the telecommunication companies are in a race right now. Again, you just haven't heard of it, but they've been doing it for a very long time. It's just Elon beat them to it.
Yeah.
Okay, and the skies are going to be filled with satellites and drones and markers. The poorer countries will benefit because they didn't have it before. So I talked about it one time in church about this country. I can't remember the name of the country, but they got internet for the first time through Starlink.
Hmm.
And you know what the number one thing that invaded that village was? Pornography.
Of course,
Pornography. So
of course.
the invasion of these sort of topics, if they're not discerning, will destroy the poor because they will they will be feeding their flesh. Not that they weren't doing that before, but it'll be so increased. It's going to be crazy. So anyway, this is one clip here about Elon Musk.
Well, I mean, because he clearly owns his own AI platform, and the energy consumption of AI is just astronomical. And what he's saying is, we're actually going to run out of energy here on Earth. So he's thinking of ways that he can sort of change that. But what he's proposing is that he's going to send up a Starship rocket every hour with data centers into orbit. So, and then use solar energy from the sun to power them, which is kind of interesting. And he's saying within, say, 3 to 4 years, this is going to be a common practice.
All right. I want to touch on something she said there. She said the Earth is
Wow.
going to run out of energy. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not going to run out of energy. But we have people on this planet that control the energy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's a
Because
distribution problem, is what it is.
yeah, there have been people, and again, this could be a whole nother show. Patents and stuff that have been taken away, or the people die, or whatnot. But people nowadays have been tapping into what we would call Tesla energy. It has nothing to do with the company. We're talking about Nikola Tesla, right? And they're tapping into the magnetosphere. There's one guy in Africa got what we call a smart TV to work without it being plugged in. I haven't heard anything about that guy since then. Don't know what happened to him. Blah blah blah. And there's some brothers also in Africa that got their automaton, which is a robot, to work without it being plugged in. So the people around the world are figuring this stuff out. But the energy dominance, control of the oil, control of electricity, is being dominated by corporations. And even in certain shows like Alien Earth and others from the past, you see that corporate systems rule the planet in the future. And that will bring us back to what we're talking about today, technocracy.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the control and the flow of information, the control of power. And that's really now whether it's political power or actual energy to make things work. The elites have understood this for years. I mean, just years. Is that's that's how things work.
Yes. And so she was talking about data centers. So this person says current advances in AI are, this is a quote actually, advances in AI are dependent on large terrestrial data centers, which require immense
Yeah.
amounts of power and cooling, Musk wrote. The only logical solution, therefore, is to transport these resources, resource intensive efforts, to a location with vast power and space. It's not just that, though. And we were talking about earlier that this gets rid of the borders. This gets rid of the red tape and the licenses and all these stuff he has to go through on planet Earth because of government this and government that.
And Elon is in a very unique position where, since he's the one that owns all of his own companies, he's the only one he has to answer to.
Right.
So he's able to coordinate these things. I mean, when you see these launches that he does, and you're in that news report that you played a few minutes ago saying he was going to do a launch a day, and that's incredible. And to have all these data centers that are probably going to be the size of a toaster floating up there in space, and you don't have to worry about energy supply because the sunlight is right there and it's unfiltered. You don't have cloud cover. You don't have any of that. Number two, you have unlimited cooling because in space there is no temperature and the heat is instantly dissipated. So, I mean, you get the best of everything, and he doesn't have to really worry about it. But I mean, it's absolutely insane when you think about the fact that he's going to put up like 1,000 satellites and some crazy number.
Right. And just a side note, real quick. These are the companies: SpaceX headquarters, X headquarters, Tesla headquarters, Tesla factory, Starbase, Starlink factory, the Boring Company, and Neuralink office. Right.
Yeah.
And all of these will be integrated with AI.
Wow.
The databases and satellites, I don't have it in front of me, but it was talked about a few weeks ago, or maybe in the last week, about how they will be infused with AI up in space. Now, you take that and you go along with how the Pentagon now says that the entire American military will be fused with Grok AI. Hegseth, about 2-3 weeks ago, had the whole speech in front of in one of Elon Musk's factory, told him American people, told the world actually, that it's going to be infused with Grok AI. Right? So I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
And for people that question what's going on in the book of Revelation and how one man could just take over the whole world and rule it, we're getting a glimpse of that.
Yep.
We're getting a glimpse, because I've talked to people, many people, that just don't believe that can happen because of the way the world was structured then.
Right.
They didn't see the immense explosion of technology from, I mean, there's a reason I call the show Reign of the Tech, because it will reign over the planet. Now, it doesn't mean every single country will be vastly improved or vastly have robots and drones everywhere. But for the most part, what people around the world are planning, doesn't matter if it's Russia, doesn't matter if it's China, America. These plans have been in place for a long time, and it's not just they're all working together. No. They're in a race to see who can get there first, because whoever gets there first will be the dominant one, right? And Elon has been waging a war between who's trying to control him, take his money. France just raided one of his offices on the same auspices as they did for the billionaire that owns Telegram. Oh, we have some of child this and child that. You know, somebody was putting something out on X that had to do with children. Okay, fine. But they raided the entire office. Now, I don't know what happened after that, but you got to understand, people that have, we call them the good old boys, the people that big money, the old money, they're the ones trying to say, no, we are in power.
Yeah.
Get rid of you. We can't kill you, but we have to find another way to get you out of our country or whatever, you know? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, and Elon I find to be a very interesting guy. I'd love to be able to sit down and talk with him and pick his brain a little bit and see where he's coming from on certain things. I'd love, as an interviewer, when I do my own show, this is a guy I'd love to interview.
Oh yeah,
he's on the list. I mean, I have questions that I want to ask him. But yeah, he has the ability to say no to people. It's like what they say in Hollywood. You know, you've made it when you can start to say no. And this is a guy who can say no to a lot of things, and he won't suffer for it.
Right. Here are a couple more facts. I think we're just going to run into all aspects of Elon today.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It really is.
It says here, this is from Bankless on X, February 2nd. It says XAI runs the intelligence. Tesla makes the chips. SpaceX launches into outer space, and that's the end game. The chips that are going to be trained to build AGI, are artificial general intelligence, are going to be Tesla chips, with XAI being the orchestrator of it, right? And it says AI data center in space thing is the new novelty, a new thing that just kind of come online in the last few months, because it's only recently been made possible through this Starship program. You need a certain amount of energy in space, as we talked about, to offset the cost until it's more lucrative to train data centers in space than on the ground, right? So we get into the other issue where Elon wants to take us to Mars, right? And you know that's interesting, But then it talks about, let me pull that up really quick. Where this is what he posted a couple days ago to get you guys the correct context here. It says, for those unaware, SpaceX was already shifted focus to building a self-growing city on the moon. I'm gonna pause right there. Now, we already have on this planet nanotechnology that could build cities, buildings, but we just haven't heard too much about it. So this is kind of going into that realm, right? And he says, as we can potentially achieve that in less than 10 years, whereas Mars would take 20 plus years.
Yep.
Right? The mission of SpaceX remains the same: extend consciousness and life as we know it to the stars. Right? That's a little veiled term for transhumanism, guys, if you don't know that. It is only possible to travel to Mars when the planet aligns every 26 months, 6-month trip time. Whereas we can launch to the moon every 10 days, 2-day trip time. This means we can iterate much faster to complete a moon city than a Mars city. That said, SpaceX will also strive to build a Mars city and begin doing so in about 5 to 7 years. But the overriding priority is securing the future of civilization, and the moon. All right. So I'm gonna let you run, and I'll jump in.
The thing is this: is that to get to Mars, it would make sense that you'd have to have your jumping off point be the moon. That would be the most logical way to do it. It would actually be, in the long run, once you actually had something set up there to do that, it would be cheaper to launch from the moon because you don't have the Earth's gravity to contend with. Launches would be much easier. You're not fighting against Earth level gravity. I think, what's gravity there? About 20% or something that it is here. I mean, it's something ridiculous. Um, So that would be the perfect launching off point. And I know that Jeff Bezos with Amazon, I had read at least a year ago, he was talking about how he's making plans on how he would deliver stuff to the moon.
Right.
So that means that these plans must be, moving forward, because why would 1 billionaire be trying to figure out how to deliver stuff to the moon if there wasn't going to be people living there? That it seems like that's the end that Elon's working on.
Yes.
Plus, in the new Star Trek Academy, in a recent episode, they had a scene showing robots that look like large nanobots building skyscrapers in lightning fast time.
There you go.
So they're seeding that into the consciousness.
That is predictive programming.
Yes, it absolutely is.
And I know some of you guys haven't heard of predictive programming or don't even understand what that is. A simple way to put it is writers, directors, doesn't matter if it's a novel or a movie. they will put in things that they emergent technologies, whether the technology is 100 years away or 10 years away, they'll write these things into their script because it's great entertainment. And your subconscious will take that in, and then 10, 20, 30 years later, you're like, wait a minute, didn't I see that in a movie? Didn't I hear that on a television show or in a comic book or whatever?
It's not a shock.
Yeah, it's not a shock, and you are now ready to adopt it. Now, some
Well,
people.
what's interesting too, if I jump in here, is you've already seen this, and it's ubiquitous. Captain Kirk on the original Star Trek would flip open his communicator, and I have a late friend of mine. He bought one of his first cell phones intentionally because it looked and was designed to look like a Star Trek communicator.
Absolutely.
And so there it is. There's your flip phone. Now, if you move forward to the next generation, you saw tablet computing perhaps 10 years before tablets became as popular as they are now. Now it's a matter of whether or not you have a tablet. It's how many of them do you own? Now you move forward to Deep Space Nine. You saw the Vorta. I guess I'm a Trekkie. You saw the Vorta wearing what would be called Google Glass before it was Google Glass, where they'd control the entire ship by looking into eyewear that they could then use to control the ship with.
Right.
So there you see it being placed, and in this case, it would be a good 10 or 20 years ahead of the time that would become a reality.
Right. So these and then we have self-replicating robots, which I touched on last time, but I didn't get into the meat. And so these things are strange to us, but these things were all planned a long time ago. And I'm not talking about a secret plan, by the way. I'm not talking about a secret plan. These things have to come with the development of an artificial system, right? When there's some hotel rooms today that when you go in there, there are cameras watching you, and you have a certain device to actually see the red light that shines into the room. Okay? So we're already there into what we would call the future, the sci-fi age. Okay.
Yeah. And when I look at this article that you have up here from Elon Musk, right now, and what they're admitting to, and this is not a criticism, but what they're admitting to in this is that they can do these things in this time frame.
Yeah.
Number one, that may not necessarily be the truth, because they probably have technology that at this point makes this look like child's play. Plus, if you look at just 20 years, think about what life was like 20 years ago compared to now. If you look at the technology and look at how much stuff is advanced.
Absolutely.
Now, if you make that comparison to 2006, think about what we had. Alexa was in its infancy. No, Alexa didn't even exist yet. Alexa didn't even come about until about 2014. So we're talking, look at all the things that weren't even in existence yet that are ubiquitous, all the way out now to 2026. So imagine now in 2026, imagine what they're going to be able to do in 2046.
Right.
All of that there written there is irrelevant in 6 months even, because the way there used to be, and there still is, there's something called Moore's law. Moore's law would dictate that computer technology would double. I think it's every 14 months or something like that. That's no longer true. It's doubling at a much faster rate than that now. So computer processing power. You go look back 20 years ago. What were people using? Pentium 1s?
Yeah.
And you were raving to people because you had 150 megahertz or something, and now it's like, my cell phone right here is 20 times more powerful.
Right. And we could power a space shuttle with it.
Yeah.
Crazy. I didn't look at this diagram before. Let me know if you see anything weird in there. But they did build a new chip that's going to be running the Tesla cars and other things, and it's a very powerful chip. And I see something down here. about some, but I didn't bring it up before. Maybe I could look it up now. I forgot what it's even called. Let me see. We have a few minutes left here. You got to be careful searching on X because some weird stuff will pop up that we don't want to show here.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know, I guess I'll bring it up another time. But the advances are so incredible and moving so fast. People have no idea what's coming around the corner. Now, the benchmark now, and as we have 50 more minutes, I want to get into some of the mega cities and whatnot, is, you know, everything we've adopted, it's actually kind of dissipating in a weird way, because Windows 11 is a trap.
Yeah.
And it's been bricking computers. So the new update, and so people are running to the open source, which is what is it called again? Linux, right? And that's a good thing. But all of our phones have AI on it now.
Yeah.
And there's two major companies, Google and Apple, and they work together. Don't think that they don't. Especially when it comes to technocracy and transhumanism, because all of these companies are aligned with transhumanism. That's why you have the weird emojis on your phone.
Yeah.
And they need you to think a certain way in order for them to have this transhumanism transition into a new type of world where by the time we get there, God is pouring out his wrath. I really think so. And so just know that when your cars are communicating together, and your toasters and fridge and all this stuff, and you oh, my home is so secure.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a trap. Right?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and I sit there and people talk about AI, and then they'll bring up Alexa, and I'm like, no, Alexa's a toy. That's not AI.
Compared
And
to what's coming, right?
compared to what's coming, it's a toy. It's Tinker Toys. The thing that I always get a kick out of is people will complain about a smart speaker listening to you, but if you take your Android phone, which I have right here, or if you have an Apple iPhone, basically what that is a smart speaker you carry around in your hand and make phone calls with.
Right.
So
And
it's the exact same technology. And here's the funny thing: we just got a new puppy. So you know what my wife and I are talking about now a lot, and you can hear a dog barking. Is I'm getting ads on my phone and on my tablet for dog training and dog food.
yeah.
I wish that's all it was. I wish that's where it ended, because that's innocuous. That's harmless.
Right.
But it
Now,
goes a lot worse than that. So,
yeah.
But
So-
this is people. I'm guilty of it. I'm big time guilty. I carry it around with me all the time, and I'm whatever. It's always on. It's always listening, and it's an Android phone. And Android is made by Google, and Google, and so put it together. So this is how they know, and they have billions of listening stations all over the planet, courtesy of right here.
Yeah, and remember that just because it has a dumbed down version of artificial intelligence doesn't mean it wasn't listening prior to that.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's taking it to things that are not so dumbed down.
Right. So your smart TVs, the TVs were listening before they were called smart. Okay. And I touched on some of that before, but we will try.
You know what people forget is that television was invented back in like the 1920s 1920s, 1930s by the Nazis.
And there are two other guys as well. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, but that's and it's it tells a vision.
Yeah.
Television.
Yeah. And I'm going to actually do a singular program on television, so that I have to read the book first, because there is a book and I have it. So about the inventors, you could find articles online about how they were trying to see the future, or they were contacting spirits. So, take that where you want. But let's get into the mega regions really quick.
Sure.
And so this is a smaller map here. Let me try to get this showing. Boom. All right. So if you go to America 2050, it's a website. You'll find these maps, but it's hard to navigate nowadays because they have all these New World Order talking points, UN talking points on there. But basically, they want these mega regions, right? They want us all consolidated this by 2050 in these mega regions. Just think of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and this is the cherry on top.
And it's on steroids.
Yeah. This is like the trucking lanes from these from New York to Newport to Charleston, Savannah, all of Florida, and I do mean all of Florida, all the way over to California, Oakland, and all LA. These would be the freight routes, the network, right? Let me see if I can get a bigger map here. This is smaller.
You know, it's interesting too because you talk about the 15-minute cities and all that, and then they're pushing electric cars that they say nobody wants because unlike a car that you fill up with gas, you got a much longer range. But if you're in a 15-minute city and you have a car that can go 200 miles electric, the way that they're looking at it is that more than meets your need. You don't need to be able to drive 500 or 600 miles when you're going to be driving 15 minutes anyway.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's the way they look at it.
Yeah. And so these will have, even though they call them mega regions, this is where they'll have the mega cities. So you see all the way up here, they call it Cascadia.
Yeah.
And then we have Northern California, and we have Southern California, Arizona. Notice Nevada and places aren't even mentioned. Front Range. This is over here, I think by Idaho and stuff like that.
Right.
Oregon, Texas. The Texas Triangle is what they call it. Notice how the coastline is filled with people, filled with. When I said all of Florida, I meant all of Florida. You see that, right?
It's pretty amazing.
Piedmont Atlantic. So the southern states. Then we have Northwest, New York, and all those places there. And we have the Great Lakes. So in between all that are smaller cities. So, but it's the entire freight network, though. So everywhere else will be considered wildlife land. Okay. And that's from Agenda 21. Okay. So you're going to have your smart cities, your mega cities. Think Judge Dredd and other places that seem crazy. When you
or you can even go to Hunger Games. That's, I think, a really good depiction of what you're talking about.
Yes, Hunger Games. You see the smaller, it's really small, fine dots.
Yeah.
And if you travel the country over the last, I would say 10, 15 years, don't you notice that certain exits are cut off now? And I started noticing that before I moved from Florida. And they're going to starve out the smaller, some of the smaller towns, so that everybody will be on this technocratical grid. Let me see here. And I put these maps in my Telegram group, so you can go there and download it and look for yourself, because we can't cover everything right now. Let's see here. So this is the recommended construction.
And I think, weren't they talking about connecting a lot of these bigger cities with like very high speed rail?
Yes. And in fact, I believe they have a lot of talk about high speed rail now. Yeah, because some people are using that money for other things.
And it was supposed to go for certain things, but it was all being, I guess, sent overseas.
Yeah. And see, the only city mentioned in Nevada is Las Vegas Valley. That's the only one.
Yeah, and I think not too long ago, Las Vegas only had about 700,000 people in it. Now it's got over, 3 million?
Yeah. And a lot more people are moving here for whatever.
People are moving in like crazy.
Yeah. So if you see that, guys, they have all the cities here that will be transformed, and the population there of each city, at least at the time of the making of this map. Let me see what else I can bring up here. So I know we transition from Elon Musk to this, but think, and it's not just Elon, by the way. We're not trying to make him the scapegoat here. It's a lot of other people involved in this stuff. Um, Trying to find some other versions of this map here.
And while you're looking for that, let me just run something by people, and that is when people laugh and they hear the word conspiracy. Conspiracy only means when two or more people are working together to bring about a common end. So you get a group of people together that basically have unlimited resources, and they all have a vision about something that they want to do. So let's use a different word. They collaborate.
Yeah, collaboration. As you see,
Collaboration.
as you see here on this map, this is part of the whole thing too. You
Yeah.
have the annual loss, right, and the increase. So by 2020, but between 2020 and 2050, you're supposed to have some increase in flood damage or whatever. What it's basically saying here is that the Earth is going to be have problems in the global climate change and all this stuff. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah.
which I don't believe in, but whatever. Let's see here. What is this? This
But
is
if you can control the weather, you can make certain things
right.
happen.
And here it goes. Where should the high speed rail go in the United States? Here you have it.
Mhm.
Wherever there is a megacity.
Mhm.
Right? So you see all the veins here. So this is not a
Yep.
theory. This is what's going to happen.
This is what they're proposing on paper right now.
Right, exactly. Um, all the way, Houston, all look at Denver, North California. It's the same. It's just another skeleton over the maps we saw earlier, right?
Because I had seen years ago plans where they had these transport vehicles. I couldn't really call them trains, but they were in like a vacuum tube. They could carry a lot of people. And this thing they said would be running at like over 10,000 miles an hour and could get from New York to LA in, I don't know, 15 minutes.
Wow.
And that was like, I remember reading that 15, 20 years ago. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And, and you could live in New York or in the New York area and work in LA and commute each day.
Here goes a little snippet from the Great Lakes, right? It says the
Yeah.
Great Lakes mega region is exploring ways to grow its economy in face of the shrinking role of the manufacturing sector. The
Hmm.
region's assets include the environmental resources and amenities of the Great Lakes and strong research and cultural tradition tied to the leading public universities.
Hmm.
And they have you have to go and read this for yourself because it takes time to get through all this information. But notice how it's tied to the earth.
Yes.
Okay. Um, they talk about the gross domestic products, the 18 million new residents. So everybody's going to be chucked into these areas, guys. If
Yeah.
if their plan actually succeeds. Um, so it's time for us to wrap. So, what are your final thoughts on what we just covered?
It's coming. I mean, I think as we see this whole thing come into view, everything, as I look at it as a Christian, I think the whole groundwork is being laid down and prepared for the arrival of the Antichrist.
Hmm.
And the 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 enemy does not know exactly when that's going to happen, so he has to make sure. He has probably a better idea than most people on the planet, and
Right.
he's laying down what he needs to do because that when that clock starts, he knows how long he has, and he needs to be able to hit the ground at a high rate of speed.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for checking us out. And don't forget to check out don'tletthemburn.com and truth be told network .org. And you wonder why there's so much anti-Semitism because a lot of Jews need to go back to Israel, and God is using persecution to bring them back. So keep Israel in the forefront. This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn, and this is Reign of the Tech. Thanks for checking it out. See you
Thank
later.
you. Thank you for having me on.
All right.